Hi, we're Snuti. I'm Claire.
And I'm Krister, and on this channel we talk about game development and we're sharing our journey as we go along.
We are currently working on the Life of Mr. Pips, a short and cute little adventure game where you play as a little strawberry who's trying to find his place in life.
In today's devlog, we're going to be talking about how we're setting better milestones for the project,
Terrain causing terrain-like issues, and how we're improving the world in general.
and now Mr. Pips can start rafting.
Somewhat.
Ish.
And a festive Christmas time animation. Last video, we mentioned that we set ourselves a new deadline. And in obviously doing so, we have set lots of little different milestones to make sure we could achieve that. Unfortunately, even now, we're already a little bit behind schedule. Making a fun and interesting rafting mechanic has, well, been a little bit more tedious than we even expected in the first place.
Even just making the raft stay upright on the water has been challenging enough, but we're getting there slowly but surely.
Level design as well itself has taken a lot of time, but I think the results speak for themselves, really.
We're supposed to also have finished our mushroom character by now, but I don't see him anywhere.
Well, we'll get round to that, but he is a very lazy character in general, so I mean, I think he'll be fine with us lazily just trying to put him together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, good. Even if all of these points are making us go a little bit out of schedule, I think that the results themselves and what we've actually made, which is a lot more of a living world, is well worth it. I mean, look at all these little blueberries running around, having a picnic, building sandcastles, queuing to go rafting. I mean, come on, wouldn't you want to do that?
But it only makes sense to actually use the assets and system we already made to their full potential before running off and making more systems and more assets. So I think we're doing a good trade-off.
You can never have too many blueberries, right?
We have it crowded with blueberries. I don't see any problem here.
Terrain causing terrain-like issues, because that's what terrain does, right? We really wanted to make a tri-planar terrain shader after seeing quite a lot of different games utilizing it in cool ways, such as the game A Short Hike, and also Spoonie's little game that he's making as well.
If you don't know what the triplanar shader is, it's a shader that projects its textures onto the different sides of the mesh. So for example, the surfaces facing vertically can be rocky, and the horizontal faces will be grassy. So this is a super way to make your level design more efficient, and you don't have to go around and manually texture all the sides of your different terrains.
But when using lightweight render pipeline and Unity terrains, we couldn't actually find much resources on how to make it work, as it's not possible to use shader graph for the terrain, and we're not familiar enough with the shader language. So we didn't want to spend any more time on it and decided to continue painting out textures manually ourselves.
This is how I manually paint them. Well, that was until we came across CTS on the Unity Asset Store, which actually does this, which have been both a blessing and a headache to work with.
We are now actually using the CTS terrain tool. We have had multiple times where the terrain has just stopped working, and when we bake in the textures, all the textures are out of order.
Maybe we skimmed through the documentation a bit too fast.
You know, I'm not a big fan of slow video tutorials.
But we finally have gotten it to work, so we're saving ourselves a bit of time with it, and we're getting more familiar with the tool. It seems to do its job.
Yep. While we've not found an exact triplanar approach with the CTS tool, we found a snow feature which colors the horizontal surfaces above a certain height, which we might repurpose to make dirt in the woods.
Who says we're not finding creative solutions with the tools we got?
Right. Now we've been getting a large amount of the world to really come alive. And now we started actually doing a lot more blocking out of how the terrain is going to be in both autumn, winter, and all over the place.
We've also been adding in some neat snow particles in springtime, so it really changed the atmosphere, and I can't wait to add them into wintertime as well when we get that far.
We created a tree sway shader that we've been adding to all of the trees to make the world seem and feel more alive. This was something we added after getting inspired by playing A Short Hike, because that game is just super, super cute. And it was so inspirational to see how he made the world itself come alive. And...
There's more?
Well, duh, yeah.
I'm quite impressed looking back at all the things we got complete since the last video. Even if we're missing our milestones, this is awesome.
Yeah. Because we've added little collectibles into the game.
I completely forgotten about them.
I know. And they'll also follow Mr. Pips around. They're not visually quite finished yet, but the basics are in place. So they'll follow Mr. Pips around in the form of pips. We're not sure if we had really any other awesome idea of what they could be, but they'll be pickups in the world and through conversations.
So you'll be rewarded for the exploration of the world itself.
Yes. And after all the collectibles, we also managed to get Mr. Pips to finally go rafting after all this time. Ding, 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 ding.
Is that what it looks like when he's rafting?
No, it isn't. He doesn't look like that, sorry. So we thought rafting would take us a good week with a little bit of margin, but unfortunately that was just not the case. We're still working on making it work and feel good, and of course, fun. But it seems that manipulating forces in a physics engine is not exactly what one would call child's play.
Pips, use the force! We reworked how water and rivers are made in the game. So instead of using ProBuilder, which added a million vertices and were really hard to control, we used Blender with a curve modifier, giving us much finer way to adjust, then subdivide the mesh for the shader to add waves to the surface. And with finer control, we can make the river feel a bit more brutal.
But the taller waves meant that they now started to poke through the raft hull. To solve this, we tweaked the render order a bit so that the raft always appeared above the water. This caused shadows to render in front, which looked buggy, and the raft lost its foam effect on the water shader. Playing around, we accidentally realised we could put two rafts on top of each other, and so we got the best of both worlds without any of the issues.
Now we just need to make that raft feel right to raft around in.
Yep.
It's Christmas time,
which requires a good old Christmas animation, right? Ding ding. It's a festive time, so it's obviously a very important time to crack out a good old Christmas animation and also make Mr. Pips feel all festive and happy and maybe get some presents.
So a storyboard was drawn with a cute little Christmas sequence, and let the festivity begin.
Initially, we were thinking of making a 2D animation, which would use the drawings that I had drawn of Mr. Pips.
So I could just take those drawings and animate them a little bit.
But then we realised that was going to take a lot of time, and why not just utilise the systems we'd already made?
Yeah, he already knows how to run around and tumble and yeah.
And fall off the world.
And yeah, that happens as well.
We set up a little stage, coded a bit, then added Mr. Pips and some blueberries, of course. So they could run around until we got the Christmas shot we wanted.
The first take didn't go so well. Mr. Pips fell straight off the world with his precious little present.
But after a few takes, we finally got there.
It was really tricky as we acted out the scene live while recording it, and the player orientation was not locked with a stationary camera, so right was left and left was up and down and suddenly forward. And yeah, Pips was confused and we were confused, but we got the recording.
So here is the final version, so we can wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Well, it's a bit late, but yeah, certainly a Happy New Year.
Yeah, better late than never.
Better festive than ever.
Since last time, Krister has become a mod in our favorite community, the Game Devs Friend Club.
Yeah, it's an awesome Discord community for game developers. Are you ready to start your 100 days of Game Dev Challenge?
Check out the link in the description where you can join lots of awesome game developers and people in general and have a great time in an awesome community. It's got the Snuti seal of approval!
We're excited to see where Mr. Pips is going the next 2 weeks. It has felt like we haven't made a lot of progress lately, especially with Christmas and family, but looking back at what the game looked like at the beginning of December, I'm pleasantly surprised.
We've learned a lot about physics, level design, and where your terrain can actually go wrong. Now we're looking forward to another year of game dev, and unfortunately, this is the final video of this year.
But it won't be the final video. There's going to be lots more next year.
We wish you all a happy new year and wish that all of your game dev endeavors and creative endeavors go awesome for the next year.
Now remember to hit that like and subscribe. Smash it if you like.
Thank you so much for watching and being a part of our journey. We all hope you have an awesome week, and until next time,
Bye.